Okay, good morning. We're up to Siman Reish Ayin Zayin Sif Gimel. Shelo Ligrim Kibui Haner. We can't cause a candle, an oil lamp, to be extinguished. Says the Mechaber in Sif Gimel. Shochach Ner Ala Tavla. If a person forgot a candle or a light on a board, Menayes HaTavla V'hu Noifel, you're allowed to sort of move, to shake the table, and then this light will fall off. Even if the light is lit, but you just don't intend to extinguish it. Says the Ramah, but it's better to do it by way of a non-Jewish person if there's no real need. We're talking about a wax candle, or whether the wick is still alight but there's no oil left. But if we're talking about a bowl of oil, by moving it, inevitably the oil is going to move towards the wick. And therefore you're going to be maver, you're going to cause the flame to burn, and you can't do that. Now that's all. If you put it there, you were shecheach, you forgot, and you left the light on the board. If you intentionally put this lamp or candle or whatever on the board, then osalanara shariat tavlahu bossis, because now this table, this board, becomes a bossis. Pirush dova hanoise dova acher. That's what a bossis means, something which carries something else. Targum ves kanoi. It's a bossis, it's like a support, it's like it carries something else. Ledova ha'asr, and it's carrying something which is also this lit lamp. Hagar says the Ramah, you're allowed to touch the table or the board, so long as you're not being metaltal the ner. V'huadin shemuta liga b'menorish beis hakneses v'aneres dolkosov. You're allowed to touch the oil lamps in shul, as long as you're not actually moving them. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah for all the detail. So the Mishnah Berurah says at the bottom of the previous page, Sifkot Yud Beis, Shochach Ner, that if a person forgot a candle, that means it was Erev Shabbos, without intending, he just forgot it and he put a candle there. Or even if he put it on the table with kavana, but he didn't intend for it to stay there. And then he forgot it there. In other words, either he just forgot it was there, it was lit, or he actually put it there, and then he forgot to take it away. Ala tavla. So lav dafka a board, but nowadays just on a regular table. Mana'er. Said he can shake it off. What does that mean? Says the Mishnah Berurah Yudalad, when you need this table for, let's say for example for Shabbos lunch or for another time, or for whatever. Even though it's possible when you're trying to tilt, the candle to move off, it's possible that it might fall, it might be extinguished if it falls. Nevertheless, it's mutar. It's not inevitable that the light is going to go out. For kaimelon, the dover she'ein miskaven is mutar. For a dover she'ein miskaven, that would be allowed. For cost of the meiri, the davke im humanare benachas. Davke, if you sort of shake it off in a very gentle way, dahainu shemata hatavla umeiride laaretz, that you gently sort of slant the table or the board, that it gently sort of slips off. V'achakach humanare. And then you take it away. Dilav hachi have psikresha, because if it's inevitable that the light's going to go out, then of course you can't do that. That's psikresha. V'chein mashav maril ve'viu hel yerabba. Okay, so then the Ramah said, but it's better to do it alidei ein Yehudi. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Cotton Tesvav, v'oz afil b'nesha shemen shari. If you do it by way of a non-Jewish person, then you can even move an oil lamp, not only a candle. B'makom she'ein mischavin shari alidei ein Yehudi. If in a situation with it's a dover she'ein mischavin, then you're allowed to do it with an ein Yehudi afilu psikresha. That's an important klal to know. In other words, if for a dover she'ein mischavin, using an ein Yehudi, even though it's a psikresha, that will be allowed. Umash v'maril dim ein Yehudi mezuman Sorry, Zim Ein Yehudi Mezuman. If a non-Jewish person is not available, Yir Elas is al yedei cotton, then it's best to do it by way of a cotton rather than to do it yourself. Okay, Tes Vov al yedei En Yehudi. We said Ubevad. Then the Mechaber carries on and said, "Bavad she'ner shel shayv v'chiyetze bay, ashelo yehi shemen." Says the Mishnah Berurah, how can you have a light without oil? Rotzalem she'delekes rak hapasila ukva kola hashemen. I.e., the oil has already sort of been burnt out, and all you've got left is a wick. That's how it is. But if you've got actual oil in a bowl and you want to sort of move that off the table, that's going to be a problem, because inevitably by moving the bowl of oil, the oil is going to shake towards the wick, and you've got a problem of mavir. Says the Mishnah Berurah Yudzaini, Efshe the davka benir amrinan to psikresha. Says davka, when you're moving it, it's inevitable. Avol tiltu ba'alma, but just touching it, ba'alma es atavla oyes hashulchan mokum lemokum shari afilu munach olav neshal shemen v'lav psikresha the davka imu metatle benachas. And davka, if you move it gently, then we're not going to be concerned of mavir. Midas, what's that going on? Okay, so Adkan, that was if you forget the candle on the table. So you can move the table gently, that it's not a psikresha that the light's going to go out, and that way you can remove the light. But if you do it midas, then it's a bit more serious. Then you got a problem, because the table became a bossis ledova osur. Says the Mishnah Berurah Midas, Besiman shintes yispoeh sheyesh machlokas ema nikra midas. When is it called midas? Im bo'in and davka sheyanichu al das sheyesh sham kol Shabbos. Is pshat that you need it? Your intention was that this light is going to stay there for the whole duration of Shabbos. Ayafidu rak b'chnisos lechud, or is it just bein hashmoshes only that is the concern? That's when you intended to leave it there. V'hinei haner she'onu madlikin al hashulchan da'atenu nitlen mochal le'en we say, says the Mishnah Berurah, when we light and we put the candles, we put the light on the Shabbos table on Friday night. The intention is, he says, that we're going to remove it. A non-Jewish person is going to remove it on Shabbos morning. That's not considered miniach, and it doesn't become a bosses because it's not going to be there the whole of Shabbos. Im nofel ner shel shayva echelev al hashulchan ve'ein Yehudi mezumen lefonov a cotton mezumen lefonov. So the Bach says that if a candle falls on the table and there's no non-Jewish person or a child who's around, shari lena'eh ba'atzma, you can move it, you can shake it yourself. To b'makom pseida samchina malakina nal d'lo mikri maniach kimen shoyadaita lesalik lemocha. That it's not that you're allowed to move the table to shake it or to shake off this candle, because we can be soymech on the makel opinion that it's not called meiniach, since you weren't intending to leave it there the whole of Shabbos. You wanted to remove it the next day. Now this is a very famous thing, and this is what we do. That if you've got like a tray with your Shabbos candles, and you've got the candles lit on that tray, the problem is a bosses. So you want to move it at some point when the candles go out. Moving it when the candles are still lit, we said, is problematic, because it's almost a psikresha you're going to do it. You'll be trying to avoid that. But let's say when the candles go out very late on a Friday night or on Shabbos morning, you've got a problem because the tray becomes a bosses. So the eitzah is to put something else on the tray which is more choshev. Now this is not so straightforward, but let's see what he says. But the detail, we'll talk about this more in Hilchas Muktzah, Shin Ches and Shin Tes, but let's just see what he says over here. I'm in the first line, it's about 5 lines before it gets wide. You've got the chalas are there. It's poshet that they are more choshev than the ner, because I've got a candle which is lit there, but I've got chalas which I need. Now take a look at 28. Sorry, what does that mean in the candles? Then the actual flame. It's going to be a bosses for both of them. V'ahetzer choshev yosef. If the hetzer is more choshev, then it's going to be okay to move the tray. And therefore you can move it. Now, let's just go to Chaf Ches. This is very interesting. 28. Mashma midvarov, shechashivas hakikaros hu mishum, shein nitzrochos leil Shabbos. What's the chashivas of the loaves of bread? Because it's my lechem mishnah. I need it for Shabbos. V'chein mispar meloshen hachayodom, v'chein das hachazon ish, she'af al pi she'shovyai hamamoini shelo isa godel yesa mishel hayeta. We're not talking about the financial cost of the thing, because the financial cost of a few pieces of some challahs could be quite small. It's the value in terms of the need for it for Shabbos, for the mitzvah. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah Berurah. The first wide line. If you can't shake it off because you're worried about a pseida is going to cause some damage or a loss, something's going to get ruined if you shake off the candle. You can actually move the table to a slightly different place and then shake it off there if that's a safer place to do it, or a better place to do it. And if you need the place where the table is for that mokum, you can move the table with lit candles on it, because let's say you've got a group of people coming and you want to make a shir in your house and you want to put rows of chairs there and move the table out or something. You're allowed to do it even with the lit candles on it. And therefore the table didn't become a bosses, or the tray or whatever didn't become a bosses, because you had the lechem on this bosses. And from this derives the minhag sha'anoshim nizhoros litein kika tzorech l'Shabbos ala shulchan kodim ad lokas neiros. They put the kika, the loaf of bread, the challahs, on the table before they light. Minhag nochanu, and it's a very good practice. That I can now thereby move the table. V'rak im hanesh hu shel shemen. Dafke if it's shel shemen, yizoy ma'od letaltel al shulchan menachas. Just if you are moving a table where you've got a lit flame with an oil lamp, just be very careful to do it gently so you're not being makarev or marachik, the oil, which is a problem of mafir or machaber. Okay. So someone told me recently that in what's it called? The Sefer Orach Shabbos. In Orach Shabbos, there's I forget which chelik they're up to now, but the latest chelik is just on Hadlokas Neres, I think. And he told me that he's mefakvik and all this about doing this. But this is what Mishnah Berurah says, and it seems to be that that's how I always understood it for many years. What's changed recently, I haven't been mine. Maybe we'll get there when it comes to Hilchos Muksa and Shinches and Shintes. But I heard someone told me that he was mefakvik about this whole concept. But Lamais, as a kid, we always did that. You put even, whether it's the challahs or you put a sefer tehillim, a siddur, or something like that on the tray, which makes it a bosses ledava also vamuta. Yeah, okay. V'ayim b'prima godim, 3 lines on the bottom. V'ayim b'prima godim shemitzadid loima delachas shekavu hanerus. Once the candles go out, ein rishai letatel hashulchan mamner shaleha v'yochel nar mitchila v'hu shoyis al matachos v'leka peseda benura. That's when it was made out of matchas v'leka peseda benura. There's no real damage in shaking it off. Okay, now then the end of this sif, the Ramah said v'uadin liga b'menorah shebeis hakneses, to touch, like imagine Bevis marks. You've got these oil candles, or now they've got candles or oil lamps hanging from the ceiling that illuminates the shul. So to touch that, he says, when the dolkers, you just got to be careful, shlei laneh, they shouldn't move. But to touch it is okay, but just don't make sure it doesn't move. But menorah shebeis hakneses, hainu bekvu al mokum echad. But if it's suspended, then afilu liga by osa, then just to touch a hanging lantern, let's say, shebekal yinaneh, it's very easy for it to move. Va'afilu k'shekva kovu haneris, even when the candles have gone out, then you've got that's tiltal of something which is muktzah. Kein mashim mogen avram le'el b'simen reish samachei v'chein mi'ataz b'sif cotton vov v'chein mashim me'amordechai the maribik kavua, when it's fixed into the wall, that's what the Mechaba says, the Ramah says you can touch. But if it's hanging, where you're going to be metal, it's going to move, that's the problem. Okay, let's finish off the last two seifim. Dalet. Mutzah lahaniach ner shel Shabbos meba'od yom al gabe ilon v'yidlok sham b'Shabbos. You're allowed to put a candle, a light, on Erev Shabbos on a tree. V'yidlok sham b'Shabbos. Let's say you want to sit outside on Friday night in the summer, and it gets dark, and you want to have a hanging lantern from a tree nearby. That's okay. Because what's the concern? The concern may have been when the light goes out, you'll take it and you'll be mishtamish be'ilon, mishtamish be'mechuba, which you're not allowed to do. We're not worried about that. Says the Mechaber, that you'll take the lantern, you'll climb up the tree or you'll touch the branch or something like that. We're not worried about it because everyone knows that the lantern is muksa and you're not going to touch it. On Yontov, you've got a problem because lanterns and things like that are not mukta. You're allowed to take your candle around, to your neighbor. Their candle's gone out or something. You're allowed to move it, and therefore putting it on a tree, because you might come to take the lantern, then there's a concern you might come to be mishtamish b'mechuba. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Chav, on Shabbos we're not worried about it. The lekel amechish the hakaimelon the ner shedliku b'ba'isa Shabbos also letaltaloi. The lantern itself is muksa, so you're not going to come to be mishtamish be'ilan. Afil lachash shekava, even after it's gone out. Uchud come simin reishayin tes. But but on Yontov it's different because you can touch the lantern, and therefore you might come to mishtamish b'mechuba. Says the Mishnah Berurah Chaf Aleph, so therefore on Shabbos, sort of counterintuitively, it's going to be okay to put it on the branch, but not on Yontov. Okay, Sif Hey. Muta lichbais ka'ara al gabe haner b'Shabbos. You're allowed to put a keli on top of a ner on Shabbos, kadesh lo ye'echayz ha'ur b'koira, that the flame shouldn't sort of hit the roof. In other words, let's say you're sitting in this room and you've got a Shabbos table and you've got your naked flame on the table. The concern is, in those structures in those days, you have a wooden house, wooden beams. The concern is the flame, especially if it's not a tall ceiling, is going to chas v'shalom burn the roof. So therefore you want to put some sort of keli over it. Now what's the concern? You've got two issues. Number one, you're heating up the keli. Bishul on Shabbos is not only food, it's even metals and things like that. So that's one issue. The second issue is you're going to extinguish the flame. So what does he mean? So how can the Mechaber say muta? So muta lichpois kara gabi haner b'Shabbos kadesh lo yechois ha'ar b'kaira, so that the flame won't chas v'shalom cause the beams to become to be set on fire. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Chaf Beis shel cheres. So first of all, what type of keli are we talking about? Dafka shel cheres, ava shel matchas. But if it's a metal keli, then osa ki ha'mechamem chayev mishum mavir. Because you've got a problem of mavir. If it's a sakonas nefoshes, there's nothing to discuss. Then for sure you can do it. But we're talking about a klicheres which is not going to get warmed up. That's not. But if it's matchas, if it's a metal keli, then it's a problem. How hot does it have to get to be over the issa? So he says in 45. I think it's 45. Oh, so minat Torah it's got to be actually much hotter, but midrabanan it's yatzeledes boy, and therefore that's very shy. If you put a naked flame, the metal keli can easily get to yatzeledes boy, and therefore there be certainly it's drabanan. Okay, chaf gimel kadei v'afagav demonot la'kli l'tzorech hakira. Now, even though you're taking another kli l'tzorech hakira she'ein niteles b'Shabbos, which itself is muktzah, and therefore are you allowed to take a kli l'tzorech another kli which is muktzah? Chaim, we are of the opinion that you're allowed to take a kli for a kli which is not nitl. So I can take a bowl which is not muksa for the benefit of something else which is muksa. I'm allowed to do that. Now, lastly, kadei shalai v'uadinim eisa b'shvil shekosha le'enov irish aner. I can also do it not just because it's a fire hazard that I don't want my beam to get on fire, but also because the nair is too bright. or for whatever other reason. This is the important point. Make sure you leave a bit of space, an airspace, between the kli and the ner. Otherwise, the ner is going to go out. So you can do it if it's not metal, and B, if you leave a bit of airspace, so that it's not going to inevitably go out. Okay, that's the end of Siman Reish Ayin Zayin. Reish Ayin Ches is fairly short, but I think we'll leave that for tomorrow. Okay.